Okay, let me do something real quick. Okay, I want to make a quick progression video. So I'm kind of dividing this up into different categories. So like before 20, uh, before ops 20, before 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and then I'm probably not going to go beyond, well, I'll go early 40s. But by that time, you're probably going to have a handle on the game. Okay, so and then once again, I'm focusing on free to play. If you are a pay to play player, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Um, or I should say free to play or light. You might be the kind of player who gets the occasional battle pass, but you're not going to drop $99 for a ship, um, or $99 for um, per pack for the materials you need to upgrade your station to move on to the next level or whatever. So um, that's the kind of player that this is video is designed for. Um, if that's not you, then you can do what you want. Uh, but if you when you're free to play, you want to be the name of the game is efficiency. So you don't want to spend all of your materials and your RSS. You spend it at the beginning, and then for early on in say G3 or G2. We'll talk about those in a second. Um, but you don't want to spend all of those and then you're constantly having to wait for upgrades later in G3 or G4. Um, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to focus on efficiency. So at the beginning of the game, you're pretty much just going to be doing your events and your dailies. Um, you always want to do your dailies because when you get here, well, I've done my dailies for today, but you want to complete all of your dailies so that you got this top row that you complete all of those and you get this final chest because that has your treasury de-sealing rods in there. You need to get that last chest. Um, and of course, there's lots of things in here that your game needs to progress, speed ups, all kinds of good stuff in these boxes at the top and in your factions. So I really recommend doing your dailies. That ought to be your daily goals. That ought to be your number one priority. If you do nothing else, do your dailies, and then um, you're going to want to do select events. Now, if you're free to play, unless you just have hours to spend on the game, you're going to come in and you're going to see. And I haven't done any. You're going to see like um, all kinds of events, and you maybe don't have time to do them all. So you want to pick and choose um, based on what you're going for. So, like right now, I'm going for reputation. So I'm definitely going to work on reputation. Threat from beyond heroic, though, you know, I may, this the swarm. I already have Khan. I already have Mara. Um, I don't especially. I do need Tritanium though, right? So that's you're just kind of looking at the syndicate. This is syndicate. Um, threat from beyond. Yeah, the Tritanium is Officer Depot tokens. So you kind of you're going to want to pick and choose unless you just have time to do all of these. Ticketed events, those I try to do. So let me, crystal miner, definitely need titanium. Doomsday Swarm, need gas. And I don't especially need ore right now, or power steel, but yeah, I'll go ahead and do it and that'll complete this set. Okay, so um, those are the next thing you focus on. And then the third thing that you're going to want to focus on is choosing your faction. So you're going to be trying to get with a faction of some sort. The Klingons, the Romulans. So let me go to my faction screen and the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans. These top three. Um, there's different strategies. There's no one right way to do it. I do like to dual faction starting out. So I picked the Federation and the Klingons, and so that would mean that I would, be hitting Romulans. Now Romulans, because I got to lock and then I pulled the Romulans up. So later in the game, you're probably gonna want to have all three factions locked. Um, but starting off, it's really good to have two sets of daily goals. You get more speed ups. Um, the other great thing about it is it keeps you from going too fast because when you get Klingon points, it takes some points away from the Federation. So you go, you don't go quite as fast, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually kind of a good thing because it's really easy for these faction goals um, to get away from you. I don't think I have any more faction goals. Yeah, I've already done all of those. Um, but it can be really easy if you only have one faction. Next thing you know, they want you to kill, 25 level 28, and it's hard for you to kill three level 28, right? So then you're sending it in 10 times. You're sending your not Kumari, your Tala in like 10 times to meet your daily goals, your daily faction goals, and you don't want to be in that position. So that's the key thing. If you're working on two factions at a time, it helps keep those sort of more consistent with what your actual ship capabilities are. Um, and that's for free to play players, right? If you're a whale, hey, go ahead, have at it. But if you are free to play, you may not be able to level your ops quite as fast or your ships quite as fast. So you may want to have a kind of a braking system on your faction goals, and having two factions is a great way to do that. So I recommend doing that. In terms of ships, before your 20s, you can pretty much get. I've never had any trouble leveling the 2-star ships. Um, you can get the jelly if you want to, but the main ship that you're going to want to get that is a 3-star ship, but I think it's available at like starting at level 17, is you're going to want to start working on that North Star. And here's why. When you get into your 20s, um, okay, so when you start getting in your 20s, there's a North Star, and it looks like a miner, but it's your first 3-star ship that's available to you. It's not really a miner. I mean, you can mine with it. It doesn't have a lot of protected cargo capacity, um, and or a large cargo space at all. But it does mine fast. So some people do mine with it. I've mined like concentrated latinum with it. Um, it's good if you need something really fast, but you don't need a lot of it. Um, but for meeting your daily goals, stuff like that, you're probably going to be using the Envoy and then the Horizon. Um, But this North Star is actually a really good fighting ship. And the great thing about it, it's the first 3 star ship that you can get, three G3. Now these grade 3 ships, um, they use grade 3 or gas and crystal. And the first, I'm trying to find like the Kumari and the, here it is, Kira, Vaklas, and Kumari. So these are decent ships, but they're common, and they're gonna take up a lot of um, they're gonna take up a lot of ore, gas, and crystal, and I want you um, spending most of that on your faction ships. So you can get all 3 of these. Um, you just unlock them through research, so that you don't have to collect the blueprints. But I would just get one of them. I wouldn't make it the Kira. I'd make it either the Vaklas or the Kumari. Kumari, the Vaklas is a little slower. The Kumari has a little more power. So, you can do with it what you want. Um, but I'd go with this Kumari or Vaklas. Vaklas is an explorer. It's a little faster than the Kumari. Um, but I would only max tier one of these. I would not max tier all 3. You can get all 3 if you want, but just take them up to where when they start getting really expensive for components, then I would just stop. Um, and what I would max out is this North Star. You can use this. It has quicker repair times, faster repair times, and cheaper repair times. So um, it may not hit quite as hard as the Kumari or the Vaklas when max tiered, but it will be significantly cheaper for you to repair. So it's a good ship for doing your dailies. And it's fully powerful enough to do your dailies. I did my dailies with it till about 26, ops 26 or so. Um, the Devore, the Discovery, the Meridian, these are all ships that you're going to want to get, but they're not urgent. So you can get the Devore. In fact, I think level 23, 4 weeks, you can get the Devore. Um, and but you're going to be still tiering these ships well into your 30s, and the Discovery like into your 40s, and beyond. So there's nothing urgent about it. The next ship that is urgent occurs around 25, and that's Vidar. You're going to want Vidar not just for the archives, and I'll show you the archives in a second. Um, but you're going to want to. You can see this ship. Well, let me go to my ships. So if I go switch out my ships, okay. Here's Talios, but here's Vidar, and you can see it has about 3 million power. The Sally has about 5 million power, so it gets up to about 60% of the power at max of the grade 328, the G328 faction ships. But that is true power. You're going to find a lot of later in the game, a lot of these, like this says it has 28 million power, but that's not a very good estimate of what it can actually do. It's actually less powerful than this 12 million auger. Um, but the Vidar, its power seems to be, if it has 3 million power, it has 3 million power, relative to a faction ship at the same level of power. It also has a huge cargo capacity. Now, it doesn't mine fast, but if you ever wanted to hit OPC players, and steel materials. That's your choice if you want to do that. The Vidar is a uh, it's a great thing to do that with. Great ship to use for hitting um, OPC miners. It has a huge cargo capacity. Um, and once again, the Vidar is much like North Star in that it has quick repair times. So after I stopped using North Star, what I started using to do my dailies was Vidar, and Vidar is more than capable of doing your dailies from about 28. Vidar is also a pretty fast ship. Let's see what her base speed is. Um, impulse speed 163. Yeah, so she's fast. You're gonna enjoy that speed when you're grinding because impulse speed is number of hits you can do per hour, right? And if you can kill 100 an hour, that's way better than doing 50 in an hour in a slower ship. So Vidar's fast. Um, she's capable, and she's fun to drive, and she has really good repair times and cheap and fast repairs. So Vidar pretty much until, well, until she can't do it anymore. But you'll probably be in your 30s before Vidar starts struggling with your daily goals. Okay. Um, Now we want to talk faction ships. Now, if you've been doing it dual factioning, and I always recommend dual factioning, there's another benefit of dual factioning, and that is, and I showed you in the other video, you can get you can use one of your factions for your. So notice I'm not buying these crew packs for the Romulans. That's because notice up here I'm saving up credits because I want to buy the Pylum. So and that's why I'm working so much on reputation. I'm 124 million away from uh, glorified, but when I do, that'll open up, and I hope to have saved up enough credits that I can just get the Pylum as soon as I get the reputation. Um, so there's that. Um, so, but you don't want to not be buying transporter patterns. So you can notice I've still, and even though I've already got all the crew members and the transporter patterns, guess what? Still, I'm getting my transporter patterns because now I'm working on leveling those selected player crew members. You want to get them as high as you can. Um, okay, so that's that. Now, um, at some point in probably your late 20s or early 30s, you're going to be looking to lock. So I was with the Federation and the Klingons, and my Romulans were in the basement, -2 million. And this is a good system if that's your situation. Once you get the Klingons to lock, and they are at lock right now, so I can show you that is respected status. Once you hit respected, you cannot go below 10 million. Um, so I got the Klingons to lock, and then I went to Tygo core system. And this is a little hard for Vidar. Vidar could do it, but I use my Sally, and the Sally does it really well. And you go in here, Tygo core system, and you hit these surveys. And you can see that gives you 3,500 Romulan points and 7,000 Klingon points. If you want, you can also hit the Romulan system that I would use was a lock, and just hit the surveys. Don't hit the surveys, give you a lot more reputation. So you can see you get 2,200 Klingon and 1,100 Federation. Not quite as good as Tycho Core, but nonetheless, if you are with the Romulans, then that's what you kind of have to do. Um, is find this system. Um, yeah, this is a little better. 2610 Klingon, 1304 Federation, but still not the best. That's a 39 instead of a 38. But notice if you hit like the a 39 warship, then it's like half the rewards. Um, so hit the surveys, and then the Federation is right below. It's like good bridge or something. Groom bridge. Here's Sol. It's right below Sol. It's a 34 system. No, it's a 40 system. And your Sally or Centurion or Portis can easily get here as well. And you can observe it's about similar to, um, 1308 Romulan 654. But you can actually hit 41 surveys in this system, and those give you, 4,600 Romulan, 2,320 Klingon. So um, those are the three systems that you would grind for. You can, I think a Sally can actually reach um, the capital systems, but the capital systems, it's really hard to kill with a Sally. Um, there's the 49 heavy for Federation transports and then the regular. But the capital systems, Romulus, Kronos, and Sol, all have these, and they're pure transports. There's just two types of transports. Um, and this is a good place to grind for reputation, but probably when you're between 28 and 34, you're you're probably not going to be able to kill enough of these to really make it worth your while. So go to the 39 systems or the 40 systems. Tycho Core, Baylock, and Groombridge to grind for reputation. Okay, so that's that. And then um, I only recommend one faction ship at each level. In fact, if you have the North Star and the Vidar, you may even want to skip the 26 faction ship. Um, so the D3, the Mayflower, and the Legionary. Um, or if you get them, maybe you don't want to tier them all the way because you're trying to protect those materials, the ore, the crystal, the gas, and you are going to want a faction minor. So you can get the Cavord or the Antares, or I don't know what the Romulan one is. Go ahead and get one, but I would not tier it up right away. You're going to eventually want to tier it up. My Antares is completely maxed out right now. And when it's maxed out, it can get to G4 space. So you can start getting the grade 4 crystal ore and gas with a maxed out um, faction ship. But they are crystal hogs to max tier them. Um, So when you're, level 34, 35, you don't need to get into G4 space. So you can use the Horizon. The Horizon can go everywhere. In fact, I have two Horizons. Um, that I use besides my Antares. There's one of them, and there's the other. I also have a Cavort, but I haven't really. I guess it's a tier three. Why? It's Crystal Hogs, and I don't want to spend that much crystal when the Horizon is fully capable. Now, if you do find that you need to get into G4 space, and you only have one Antares, you might want another one. This is a good backup, and it's available in Cosmic Cleanup. It's the Amalgam, um, and it can go farther than this is a good ship. It has an Achilles heel, so you can see the warp range on here is, what's my warp range? 140. Um, Cargo capacity 12.7 million. Protected cargo 473. I do have some people on here that are some crew that are increasing it. But that's about 60, maybe 70% more protected cargo than my Antares. I think my Antares has about 250K with the enhanced crew. So it's really good. The only thing about it is it's really slow. This is a really slow mining ship, but you can use it. It can get anywhere in. It can get into deep space. It can get those G4. It can't quite get to G5, but it can get those G4 materials. Um, it's just a little slower, and you might consider using that as a second, because it also has the archives. Let me show you the archives. So the archives building is right here. Sorry, you probably didn't see that. It's right here, right below your shipyard, and you go in there, and so here are the ships that are available. USS Franklin, Botany Bay, Devore, and Vidar will be the first four. And then Amalgam, Franklin A, Devore Fuchsia, and Vidar Talios. And then Voyager and Monavine rounding out the bottom. And the great thing about this is once you so like you can see my Devore has 6 of 9, but my Devar is maxed, and so is my Botany Bay. So when it's maxed, you get these rewards on a daily basis. Um, so this is a really if a ship has an archive, you want it because you eventually are gonna want those rewards, those daily rewards. Uh, so my Amalgam and my Devore archive, those are I'm kind of trying to get them. I mean, they're maxed. I just have to max the archive. Um, okay, so if a ship has an archive, you want it. If a ship has a refinery, you want it. There's lots of ships that I don't really use. Like I have this. Let's. I don't really use my Franklin anymore. But this Vindicator, I mean, I pull that out like once a week um, to do just to do the event, and I could do without it. But the refinery, right? The refinery has a Vindicator refinery. I can get crew, I can get fleet commanders, and I can get stuff to level it. So if a ship has a refinery, you want it. So as you see that you're going along and you're in the cosmic cleanup, I think you may ask yourself, oh well, do I really need that ship? Well, ask yourself, okay, is the ship going to give me something that's useful? let me go to the event store because it may still be there. The Cosmic Cleanup ships. Yeah, Amalgam, Meridian, Franklin, Vidar, Discovery. I would get all of those ships except Sarcophagus. I would not get Sarcophagus. Um, Sarcophagus, yeah, you can get it if you want, but I've heard horror stories of people who have had it sitting, taking up a dock, and they can't repair it. Um, so just be careful with Sarcophagus. Okay, now here's the other thing. Um, so the faction ships, you're going to want one at each level, maybe. So let me go into the faction ships. 26, honestly, I would I would use the Vidar instead. You maybe get one, um, but don't tear it up. I want to the 28 ships. I say you get one. Um, Sally Bortus and Centurion, depending on which faction you're looking at. Um, Definitely, you want that one. The the blue one, the rare Birel. I don't know what the Federation and the. I would skip. I'd save those materials for the 34 and D4, Augur, and Enterprise. Um, so I would just kind of skip a level. You can get the ship if you want, but don't waste the materials on max leveling it. But I would max your 28 faction ship, Bortus, Saladin, and um, Centurion, and I would max your D4 Augur or Enterprise, the 34 Epic. And those are the two main faction ships from in your 20s to early 30s. Okay. And here's a strategy. Um, okay. So you want because these take up different, so I think battleships tend to use a lot of ore, interceptors tend to use a lot of crystal, and um, and explorers tend to use a lot of gas. So mix these up. So if you get a D3, I think D3 is an interceptor, right? Well, you wouldn't want to get Saladin if you got D3 because then you're going to be hurting for crystal. You're going to be hurting for crystal anyway because the your Cavort or your Antares or whatever your mining faction miner is going to be using a ton of crystal. Still, the Saladin is a really great ship. Um, I love interceptors. I just don't love that competing for crystal with the surveys. Um, you get into G4 though, and that changes. So, um, okay, but uh, to me, these are interchangeable. The faction miners. So I would just go with whatever you want. Maybe try to get one of each. Like if you get a battleship, I think is the D3 an interceptor. Yeah, the Legionary might be a battleship. So get you if you get the interceptor here, then maybe I'd go with the Centurion at 28. That's the Explorer, and then go back to Augur for the 34. And you should, by 34, I wouldn't worry. Like you might say, well, the Romulans are in the tank. Okay, but they will be triple locked by 34. They should be anyway. You'll be you'll be triple locked by 34. So then get the Augur. If you've gone with the D3 and then you've gone with the Centurion, then get the Augur. Um, you'll hear people who kind of say to get one over the other. The Enterprise maybe has some advantages with certain hostiles. um, but it's nothing overwhelming. These are all pretty equivalent at each level. Um, so just you want to mix them up. You don't want to have like all interceptors because then you're going to be having a crystal shortage like you wouldn't believe, right? Or all battleships because then you're going to be hurting for ore. Okay, so now you're in your 30s. You've got your Epic 34. The next thing you're going to want to get is okay. So now you need something like the Vidar to be your daily grinder. That I recommend getting the NSEA protector as quick as you can. Lightning fast. Um, yeah, you can see I am running a speed crew, so but 178 impulse speed. Um, Compare that to my Valdor, which is an explorer. It's not the slowest. The battleships tend to be the slowest, but that goes 93, right? So it makes a noticeable difference. Um, the NSEA Explorer, I use that for my dailies, um, and for grinding for rep and things like that. It this this number is a bit inflated. Um, so like 44, 890 power, it doesn't hit quite as hard as the Valdor does. Even though officially on paper it has over twice the power, that's not real. I think the Monavine's power is pretty accurate compared to a faction ship. Um, the Revenant. So there's a lot of at 40. There's all these specialty ships that come available. Or the Vindicator. Uh, yeah, the Vindicator is only good for armadas. I would not try to use it as a grinding ship. The power is greatly inflated. Same with the Revenant, except for the ship that it's supposed to hit. It does. They're the I think the assimilated hostiles. It does a pretty good job on those. Um, but it's also has power inflated. So a lot of these ships, they're really only good for the where you're going. I think Monavine. I wouldn't use Monavine as a daily grinder though because Monavine is also slow. Um, 90. You can see its impulse speed of 90. But you use this NSEA protector. It won't hit quite as hard as the faction ships. It is weak, but the speed more than makes up for it. And, that is quite a bit of power. I think it is inflated, but it's not as inflated as the others. It's a more useful all-purpose ship. Um, and plus, it gives you access to the mirror refinery. So use this NSEA protector. Um, that doesn't mean you don't want a Valdor or similar of what is it, 42 common faction ship. I still would get one. Just maybe only take it to like tier 6 or 7. I think I stopped at tier 6 here, um, or yeah, tier 6. And I'm just slowly trying to acquire these. But the major bottleneck when you get into G4 is not um, okay. It's not the materials so much; it's the ship parts. Now you can use Latinum to buy ship parts, and in G3, that I was doing that all the time, and they're really cheap. But you can't do that here in G4. You can't use the Latinum. So what are you going to do? You have to buy them, or you have to acquire them. Um, uh-oh. They're willing to sell me a pack, a $99 pack. But yeah, so ship parts are the major bottleneck in G4, and um, and I assume G5 and G6 as well. But I would recommend getting this ship, but then just when it starts being expensive for ship parts, I think that's trying to go to tier 7. Just stop. There's no need. Anything that you can do with the Valdor, you can do with the NSEA, with some exceptions. Um, but what you do want is the 46 rare. And so you can see there's three. My Valdora is an explorer, so I am going for an interceptor for this one, and then I'm going to get the for the for the epic. So I'm going for the Pilum, and I would take that one to. So the rares is the Coronar, I think the Newton, and the Pilum, and your Pilum. So I'm going for the Pilum at 46, and I am going to max tier that one. Um, they used to say don't get the epic ship, but I am going to get the Tribune because that will give me the battle triangle. Um, a lot of people think the battle triangle is obsolete. It's really not because the Strange New Worlds crew needs the battle triangle. Um, and also keep in mind both ship parts and mats. You don't want them competing for each other. So you still want ships of all three classes to be balanced. Um, let's talk the um, these. So the Bachor. Um, I'm getting all these blueprints. I've gotten completely by grinding, so I'm halfway there. And I've just got it by grinding for rep in Romulan space. I go to the capital system, so I go to Kronos. I have two places that I go. I go to Kronos, and I hit the surveys for reputation. And then I also go up here and I grind for ship parts. So these systems up here, Enos has, I think Enos has the interceptors, which keep in mind, I'm going for the Pilum, so I've got, a million broken ship parts, and I just, actually, I think there we go, grade 4 interceptor I've got, and I just do the max pull every time I can, but I'm grinding for ship parts, basically, and I also get, they'll drop the, they'll drop the blueprints as well. Um, there we go. So I've got some more ship parts now. Um, but yeah, um, you you're going to want to grind um, for ship parts as well, and it's not quite as much reputation to hit the warships, but they're the ones that give you you hit an explorer, you're going to get explorer parts. You hit an interceptor, you're going to get interceptor parts. So these systems, I think, Nas has interceptors, and then you go over here and they have explorers and so on and so forth. You'll get the idea when you get there. Um, but the surveys, so grade 4 surveys, I'm not going to buy the blueprints. I'm going to just grind for one. They are interchangeable, mainly in the same way that the grade 3 surveys were, except they do. So like this Pachor, they take different. Um, they're not all taking crystal. The way like Antares, it didn't matter. It's not an interceptor. Um, every survey ship takes crystal, right? Excuse me, in G3. That's not the case in G4. So I'm also getting. Um, I'm using away teams credits to get the Federation one. Where is it? Bachor Newton. Yeah, the Hydra. Um, I haven't been grinding for those. I've been using because I think this is going to take gas, um, which I will. The the Bachor is going to take crystal, so I'm probably going to get the Bajor, but I'm not going to level it until I need to get to G5. Um, Instead, I'm going to try to level this Hydra because by that time, um, I've got the Valdor and it uses gas, but I've already stopped leveling it, and I don't want to compete with the Pilum or the Tribune. So this will be a good one for me to work on tearing it up as much as I can. Once you fully tier these, once again, just like the G3 could get into G4 space, these, once you max tier them, they should be able to get into G5 space. And your faction goals, as you keep on going, as you keep on progressing to your faction goals, eventually, I think, um, let's go to the faction goals. Yeah. I don't think it's glorified, but I do think it's the one right after that that switches to G5. And what is that? That is champion. So definitely by champion, they're going to want G5. Um, Perhaps by glorified, I don't know, but um, so you're going to want by the time you get to champion, you're definitely going to want a miner that's maxed here to G4 miner that can get to the G5 systems. Okay, I think we've talked about enough in terms of progression, kind of what you should be focusing on. Um, I do want to say it used to be thought that you should just skip these, like the Tribune, the G4 epic ships, and the reason for that is they take a ton of ship parts. Um, but now I think the thinking has changed. You should probably try to count on getting one because they added goals to the cube. So if you ever think you might want to max tier a cube, they started tying faction goals to it. So let me show you my cube. And my cube right now cannot be upgraded. Well, like I can upgrade it, but I can't completely upgrade it because there it is. The transwarp coil, I have to upgrade a USS Newton Coronara Pylon to tier 6 before I can do it. So you're going to want a Tribune or equivalent faction um, in order to progress with the cube, but you're probably only going to want to take it to tier 6. Um, if you don't want the cube, then that's not an issue. Okay, I'm going to call it quits on this video, and um, any questions, you can reach me in Alliance chat or by PM. Take care.